Hey everybody, what's up? We are back with another stock analysis, and today we are looking back into, let me fix this, Celsius. So Celsius has been blowing up over the past 2 days. Let me get my chart up here just so I know the actual numbers. And up, I believe, well over 20% today. They were up yesterday as well. They're up 26% today. Excellent. They are the largest stock in my own personal portfolio, and I've been following them for a few months now. We're going to go through the financials, look over this earnings report, talk about the acquisition they just happened, and also go over a valuation for them. One thing I'm also going to do is go over a hypothetical valuation, just considering the acquisition they are now going to be making. So kind of add that to where their current value is as well, and see where their valuation is at now. So if you're interested, make sure to subscribe. I make these videos every single day of the week, and that's about it. So let's get into Celsius. So getting into Celsius, we are not going to go through everything here only because I already reviewed their financials fairly recently. So instead, I'm going to mostly focus on their earnings report, as well as hopefully I can find a report about the acquisition they made. But just some things to highlight. Their market cap was at $6 billion. I think now it is a little over $7.5 billion. This just is not updated yet. Target price is at 38, which we are now fairly close to, and long-term growth rate of 25%, which is awesome. Looking at the growth summary, they still don't have all their numbers filled out, but the big thing here is their sales growth is enormous. One of the highest numbers I've ever seen for any company, and long-term looks fantastic. So those are the big indicators here for one of the reasons this company is such, or I should say, doing so good right now. Their sales growth is projected to be insane. So going through some things, let's go over the quarters. So I'm actually probably just going to look at the fiscal year because I believe the report that came out was fiscal year 2024, and we saw increased sales, relatively similar profitability, a little bit lower. Again, these are preliminary numbers. And you know what? I think before we go into that at all, I'm going to show the earnings report because the earnings report was very solid. And I think we saw a lot of things that show improvement in the company. So we're going to go over that first. And of course, it does not want to load for me here, but once it does, we'll get into it. So getting into it here, two things that we're going to look at. First of all, the metrics recap, and then we'll go into the street takeaways. So unfortunately, a little lackluster on the metrics recap, but overall, biggest thing here, EBITDA margin, massive beat, 18.9% versus 12.5% expected, and also gross margin beat as well, which is fantastic. Next thing, street takeaways. Let's see how we're doing here. So shares were up 35% pre-market, which is amazing. EBITDA had a strong beat. Revenue was ahead, driven by international growth. And that is something I brought up a couple times in my last review of this company, was their international growth is going to be massive very soon. And I think it's going to start showing a lot more. I think their domestic growth is probably starting to slow down, and I don't think it is as promising for the company, but them expanding internationally is going to be huge. There is a massive untouched market for them, basically around the entire world. And their growth in this segment has grown so much quarter over quarter. I don't know if I'll be able to find the exact numbers, but I believe it was somewhere around 40% growth international quarter over quarter, which is amazing. Next up, announced the acquisition of Alani Nu for $1.8 billion, which is amazing. As far as I'm aware, based on the little bit I've read about that company, they're very high growth. They're very similar. So not only will it give Celsius just overall more market share, but it also gives them access to a very different niche for the industry and also just another high growth product. So overall, I think that's really good. From what I understand, Alani Nu is more marketed towards women, while Celsius is more just people. So could be a bit more of a niche market there, but I'm sure they will do well with marketing Alani Nu as well. So overall, I think that will be a very good thing, especially near term, as I feel like we've been seeing a little bit of slower than expected growth for the company. And now that we have this huge acquisition, as well as margins were very strong, I think we'll see a lot better growth for the company coming up soon. Other than that, the analysts were fairly optimistic, I would say. Targets remain most of the time the targets are consistent. Average target actually decreased very slightly, which is interesting. But the four that are here, one of them raised, maintains an outperform. Target is at 35 and target is at 38. So overall, they are expecting upside here. I'm not going to read through everything, so feel free to pause here if you want to. One thing I do want to look at now is their stock chart. So the growth here was outstanding. A couple of days before the earnings came out, they were up 15% in one day. And after that, we're kind of flat. And on earnings, I'm guessing this was just a little bit of a prelude to earnings. They were up 7% or 6.5%, a little flat, up another 15%, a little flat, and then just took off. So the past week and a half for this company has been fantastic. You could see their mostly long-term channel here was completely broken through. Their support area now, I would say, is probably right around the low 30, high 20 area. I think with this acquisition, there's enough value here to where we won't probably see that low $20 range for a while. I think they've added enough to where the market cap probably won't reach that point. But overall, we'll have to see if they continue delivering results. They did miss significantly on their EPS, which is something that is a little bit concerning, but overall revenue beat. And I think the EPS they could say are from adding extra shares. I believe that is what went on there. And we can find that out by going back into the financials here. So let's see if they have the most recent quarter added in here, which they do. And are the shares higher? So they do not have the basic shares. I believe if we look at the press releases here, we might be able to find information on Alani Nu. So here is what we are looking for right here. And I believe in this acquisition, they are adding a lot more shares, which would probably affect their EPS fairly significantly. So let's see what we're dealing with here with this. So from what I understand, a significant portion of this is, again, stock, which will be in Celsius stock. And they're basically just directly adding that to the current company. From what I understand, again, if you have more and specific information on this, please let me know, because most of the time when I do these videos, it is a first look going through financials. Now, I have been following Celsius for a bit, but all of this new information is new to me. So if you have looked into this deeper, let me know. Educate me on what's going on, because I would love to know some more specifics. But overall, I would say, one good thing, agreement has already been approved by the board of directors and is expected to close second quarter of 2025. That's awesome. The fact that that is already done, sometimes companies will announce possible acquisitions, or they'll announce acquisitions and then they fall out. So the fact that it is already approved, it has gone through, they've decided it already, is awesome. I'm glad there weren't really too many teasers or anything for this where they said like, oh, maybe we can make this happen, or we're working towards making it happen. I'm very glad they just did it and then announced it, because that is massive. And it really shows with the way the stock has been up in the past day, that really shows that people are very optimistic about that. So moving on, some things about Alani Nu, health and wellness brand. They're found in a bunch of different nationwide stores, which is good. And again, energy drink focus. So very similar to Celsius. I did want to find where they would be showing the stock that they're adding, but I can't seem to find it specifically. I'm sure it's on here somewhere and I'm just missing it completely, but somewhere it does say in here that they are adding a lump sum just to the stock because of adding Alani Nu, or the total shares, I should say. So it is somewhere throughout this, but I can't seem to locate it specifically. So anyway, moving on, I'm not going to go through the rest of the financials because we have just seen them. We saw the results from the earnings report, so we know there have been improvements. So next thing I'm going to look at is their valuation. Now, the last time I did this, I think I showed them as being slightly overvalued with a fair value around $20. So I'm going to talk about that and also show some other things. So for one thing, their market cap before today was 6 billion. And actually it's showing 6.6 billion right now. So I'm going to make some pretty large assumptions here and basically just add Alani News purchasing price to that and say that that could be where their market cap can be in the future. But first, let's go over the PE. So the PE ratio is still fairly high. And one thing I want to point out is that once their earnings are factored in, their extra earnings with Alani Nu, this PE ratio will be significantly lower. So that is another thing I'm going to go through. But first, let's get their current valuation given these competitors. So 29.26 and 30.99. Let's put them in here. And 30.99. And that gives a current valuation of 21.69, which is slightly higher than what we were just at recently. I think the valuation earlier or in my last video was $20. So that is slightly higher. But one thing I want to point out is they're purchasing Alani Nu for net purchase of 1.65 billion. I'm not even going to include the other 150 million in tax assets. I'm going to just do the 1.65 billion. So given that their current valuation is at 6 billion, I'm basically just going to do some quick maths here and talk about that. So 1.65 and 6.6. So that gives a total of, let me just add this up here. That gives a total future market cap, if you just add the purchasing price to it, of $8.25 billion. That kind of increase is pretty crazy when you think about it. So basically, it's really just this divided by that, and it's a 25% increase, which is pretty crazy when you think about it. And I think that considering the market, or I should say the stock went up 27, right around that 25% mark today, and actually it is down slightly after hours, so it's probably right in that range. That kind of immediately shows that market value added to them. And I think once those earnings get fully realized into the company, once they kind of mesh their teams together and start working together with marketing and sales and things like that, I think we'll see further improvement from this. But that's just a little bit of math I wanted to do just to show, like, although it shows a lower valuation compared to their competitors here, I think that this will be significantly higher. So just something to consider. I hope that made sense to everybody, but overall, that's all I really wanted to go through. I think this is a quicker video, although I guess I'll see in a moment. But that's all I have for today. All I wanted to talk about. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't, and see everybody in the next video.